So you've just begun starting to get interested in Digimon Digital Adventure. If you are interested in an entire overview, see my previous video giving an overview. But if you're here, you're likely looking to create a human. The Tamer, as it would be, that is part of the Digimon pair. This is a video that will go in depth into what goes into making a human, how to determine their stats, torments, aspects, everything that goes into making a human character in Digimon Digital Adventure, and to make them exactly what you want to play. So, the first thing you need to know when creating a human is you will need to talk with your game master and know which version you are playing, for there are 3 different versions that you can play in Digimon Digital Adventure. There is the Standard Edition, Enhanced, and Extreme Edition. Each of these will give you a different amount of points that you can use to create your human. It will also change your starting cap for your stats and skills. It will also affect your area cap, which area cap is listed here on this list, but I believe the different splits that they give later on will be far more beneficial to make humans more interesting in your games if you use them. Now, over all of the different games, anime, everything that Digimon has put out, you may very well have a decent idea of what type of human you want to create in this system. But you don't have to limit yourself to anything that's been made before. You can push yourselves beyond into something brand new that is interesting to you. So first you want to think of the 5 main stats. They are agility, body, charisma, intelligence, and willpower. One of these will be your capped out stat. You can have only one of these at max for your campaign type. So if you are using the Enhanced Edition, as I find most games do, you will have a maximum of 5. Only one of your stats can be 5. This also encourages the teamwork of a tabletop RPG, where it makes people have to work together more, which is always a welcome thing. So once you have an idea of, are you a quick character, someone who's strong, charismatic, intelligent, or just plain stubborn, that will give you a good idea of what your main stat will be. From there, you look deeper into the individual attributes that are under each stat, sometimes called skills. These will further define what your character can do. So under agility, there is dodge. Do not confuse this with dodge that is used as a stat in combat to dodge attacks. This will be used primarily, the way I view it, is if a car was speeding down the road and you had to run out of the way of it, or a boulder falling down. Those kinds of things that aren't really an attack, but are much more a thing of the environment. You might use your dodge. Fight is your ability to fight. It will give you additional stats in order to fight in combat, but also it can be used in order to actually do just hand-to-hand or show things in combat human to human that might not necessarily be a full-blown battle in initiative. And stealth is where you are being sneaky, whether you want to cover up your motions to not be seen, cover up your sounds so that people don't know you're there. You can create a character that can get around and not have to fight while still being agile. Body is a reflection of both strength and endurance, where you can have points in athletics. Athletics is typically anything that is strength-based, so this could fall under jumping, climbing, swimming. Those are generally the kinds of things that would fall under athletics. Where endurance is your character's ability to go for a long period of time. If you want to march for a long period of time or go without rest, it might be a sense of endurance. Feats of strength is another attribute that if you wish to be able to move heavy objects or be able to pick up your friends and carry them to safety if they fall unconscious, these would be feats of strength. A charismatic character might be able to manipulate. Now, manipulating is typically more lying or intimidating, things that are typically done that are usually not quite as smiled upon by everybody. Performance is any kind of performance, whether you want to do a distraction, whether you want to do a speech in order to rally your fellow people. These could be examples of a perform check. Or persuasion is your ability to make a request of somebody or to cheer somebody up. Could very well be persuasion checks to get what you need out of Digimon and humans alike. Intelligence comes in a few different forms. The most common you typically see in Digimon, at least for humans, is the computer side of things. Because they know how to hack things, how to just in general use computers or similar digital systems, they might want to have points in computer. Survival. This is your ability to track down food, be able to navigate through the wilderness, and move quickly through it. That is survival. And knowledge. Knowledge can be a little tricky because most people don't know a lot about the digital world when they first get there, unless your particular story says otherwise. So it can be a lot of knowledge of random different things, and can build more into the knowledge of Digimon as time moves on. Where your stubborn willpower characters are great at perception. They're always on the lookout for things. They can spot things, hear things better than other people. Or they can decipher your intent, which is to learn what not exactly you're saying. Typically will be able to use to be see-through manipulate checks, or just in general be able to tell if someone's not being fully honest or has other agendas. And bravery. Now this is always a hard one to do, because even if someone fails a bravery check as a GM, you don't exactly want to tell them precisely what happens when they fail a bravery check, but it can be called upon in times of great duress in order to see if a character can keep their cool and keep together and not run off. So those are all of the different skills. Once you have an idea of all of what you want your character to do, you have many points in which to put into it. As I said, in the book there is the initial starting caps, or you can use the offered splits that I find are much better. Especially when I run the enhanced edition, I definitely use the 18-22 split, so that you have a few less points in stats and lets the characters be a little more different and not have quite as many optimized stat numbers. So I will admit the split of 12-18 in the standard block doesn't make a lot of sense, because you can only put 11 points in total into stats, because you can't have one higher than 3, so that's the max you could put in anyway. So you may want to consider that and talk with your players or GM if you are using one of those systems. But once you have all of your stats and skills figured out, you will have to derive a few stats. If you use the wonderful character sheet that I have linked down below, or I've talked about in the previous video, you won't have to go through all of this, but it's nice to have, and I will talk to you about what they are, so you know what you want to put points into if you want to do certain things. So wound boxes. Wound boxes is basically HP, for any of you who don't know this system in particular. Wound boxes are derived by adding your body stat to your endurance stat. Simple as that. You cannot have less than 2 to start. This is the amount of punishment your character can take before going unconscious. Do note that it is very difficult to kill a human in this system. According to the rules, it is nigh on impossible to do, so talk with your group if you ever want to even have an idea of that happening. Speed formula is agility plus your survival stat. Your ability to move through difficult terrain plus your just natural agility determines how fast you can move in general with one action. Your accuracy pool is agility plus your fight stat. So, if you want to be able to fight, agility is by far the way to go. Because your dodge pool is also formulated by doing your agility plus dodging. Where your armor formula is actually based more off of your body, as it is body plus endurance. So your strong or constitution-based characters can take a beating. Where your damage is your body plus your fight stat. So if you want to build a character optimized for combat, you need to have agility and body both. And points in your dodge, fight, and endurance. Now there's also something that comes along in the form of special orders. I won't go over every single special order in the game, for there are a lot of them. But you will have, at character creation, you will only have one special order. This is the one stat and skill that you chose to put up to 5 if you're using enhanced, or 3 if you're using basic, 7 if you're using extreme. Whichever one is at the starting cap. This will give you additional effects that are either passive, or you can use once per battle, and will last for 1 round if it has a duration at all. These can be extremely useful to give the human something else to do to help out their partners in battle. These vary from doubling your movement speed to be something a little more selfish, or being able to have your Digimon taunt enemies away from your weaker companions, to cleansing status effects, to giving you bonuses to initiative. All depends on the type of stat that it's derived from. Another major aspect of making a human is, well, aspects. Aspects are particular things that your human are especially good at. These are things that you have focused on that aren't exactly just reflected in your skills, but things you have spent enough time on that you are focused on. In my previous example in the other video, I talked about a cheerleader. So you start with one major and one minor aspect. So a minor aspect might be that she is really good at propping up others because, well, she's a cheerleader, she's peppy, she's happy. But every aspect also has a downside to it that can subtract the same amount from rolls. Minor aspect will be plus or minus 2, or major aspects are plus or minus 4. Where she's so concerned about others that she doesn't care about herself. So if there is an issue in which she's helping a lot of other people, she might get a bonus to perform or possibly survival checks in order to help others. But when it comes to helping herself and her own needs, she could then have a negative to that survival check to just help herself. And a major aspect is the exact same, except it is a huge part of their personality. It is a large part of what defines them and gives a plus or minus 4 to that roll. You can call upon your aspects whenever they come up during the session, but you can only use it once per day, unless you also activate the negative part of it, which will refresh it and allow you to use it a second time in the same day. But why would you want to use a negative to a roll? Story reasons, making things more interesting. Because stories are told through success and through failure. Succeeding every single time at everything you do might not always be exciting. Throwing in that extra little bit to possibly give a little chance of failure gives all the more room to grow. And speaking of growing, one of the major systems of this game that show that growth are Torments. These are things that you will also create at character creation. Torments are regrets, are scarring things that have happened to your character over time. Typically at character creation, you will start with 2 minor torments or 1 major torment. There are also terrible torments, which are typically never used in character creation. But if you wish to do so, be sure to just talk to your game master if you want to possibly make that work. So going back to our cheerleader character, she may have had a terrible accident, or she hides some deep trauma in her of a parent died, and she hides that grief and anger beneath her peppy side so that if something comes up to remind her of them, or people talk about, people who are gone, it can make her withdrawn and have to make a torment check. Try when you're making a torment to make something that you think will come up relatively often. You don't want to necessarily make it something that will happen every single session so that you'll breeze through the torment eventually. But make it something that's, not so specific that it won't come up, because you eventually want to work through these. It's part of the growth, which is a large part of Digimon and makes it so interesting and cool. When you make a torment check, it is like most skill checks. You roll 3d6 plus willpower against a target number. You are aiming for 12. 12 is a success. Anything of 12 or above will allow you to check one of your boxes off. Minor torments have 5 boxes, major torments have 7 boxes, and terrible ones have 10 boxes that you will have to check through to overcome your torment, making them harder and harder to overcome, because whenever you make a torment check, you subtract the number of unmarked boxes. But even get started on a terrible torment, you are taking a minus 10 penalty just from that, making it extremely difficult to even get started on one of those torments. Now, failing a torment check just doesn't necessarily mean that you just move on. A simple failure of a torment check means that usually a character will become withdrawn. They may not be exactly helpful in the moment. They can be more morose and less active. But if you roll a 5 or lower, this is considered a critical failure. This may cause them to lash out, hide away from the group, or more extreme things could possibly happen. Now do bear in mind, this is left up to a player. Even as a GM, never fully take away agency from your players. That's always a bad idea. So work with them when such things occur, especially if they roll 0 or lower, where they are supposedly becoming a blubbering mess. Well, they will definitely run away, and in some of the worst occasions will cause a dark digivolution of their partner, which could completely change everything, especially if it happens during a battle. And there you have it. I think that's everything you need to know to make your human the way you want it in Digimon Digital Adventure. There are so many ways you can go about it. Just look at things that are already made. If you want to try and make your first human, I first tried to make Taichi from the original Digimon Adventure because I just wanted to see what I thought he would be. And it helped give me a great framework to get started and figure out how I wanted to go about making more. So feel free to pull inspiration from other things, especially if you want to mix 2 characters together. That could create a whole new character in and of itself. Or go wild, make your own, and surprise us, and share with me down in the comments what you might want to play in Digimon Digital Adventure. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. Do you want to see more? As always, everyone, remember to be awesome. The next one, take care. Bye-bye.